Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning. Welcome to Financial Issues on this Independence Day Eve. We're so glad that you tuned in and are joining us today as we talk about defunding darkness through biblically responsible investing. That's one of our missions here at Financial Issues, to teach you how to screen out the companies that are funding ungodly agendas, funding the darkness, to keep those out of your portfolio, to get your portfolio cleaned up, and to fund the light, to encourage you to be joyful, generous, and obedient givers. We hope that you are a partner with us. If not, we hope that you will consider becoming one. It's just $132 a year, and you'll get access to the partner side of the website, where we give you the details of that strategy, videos on how to become your own portfolio manager, monthly conference calls, and weekly commentary. So on today's show, we are going to get to your calls and questions. Our phone lines are already open. If you want to get your call queued up, the number is 610-363-1110. You can call and ask questions about any of those things. I just talked about a lot of things that you might have questions about, and we'd be happy to talk to you about them today. 610-363-1110 is the phone number. On the show, we are also going to get you in the know about the recent and upcoming events that are driving the economy and the markets and how it relates to you. And we'll get encouragement from the scriptures with an Independence Day theme from Psalm 118:5, if you want to get a sneak peek on that. But we're going to start with getting you in the know, because at Financial Issues, we help you stay in the know about the financial issues of the day. We help keep you abreast of what's happening in the economy and the markets, and help you understand how that impacts or doesn't impact your own personal financial issues. So I've got several takeaways from the week that is ending, the short week that is ending today, July 3rd, 2025. The three main things: the big, beautiful bill has passed the Senate and is now on the verge of clearing the House, seemingly to be on track to reach the president's desk by the July 4th deadline. Vietnam also strikes a trade deal with the U.S., and we got a fresh look at the teetering labor market. First up, the Senate passed the big, beautiful bill very narrowly by a 51-50 vote, with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote. 3 Republican senators voted against it: Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, and Rand Paul of Kentucky, all for much different reasons. But the bill is on the verge of passing in the House. We're just waiting for House Leader or Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries to finish expelling all of his hot. About 2 hours. He's been speaking since about 4 a.m. Eastern time. About 2 hours ago, he said he was halfway done. So I've asked the guys in the control room to let us know if we get any news on that while we're going over it. So critics say that are against the bill passing after what happened to it in the Senate, that the debt will increase, that the passage of the bill will increase our national debt and deficits, which, by the way, is not something that most of those critics were worried about when the Biden administration was spending us into financial collapse and hyperinflation. One criticism is that many people will lose Medicaid benefits because of the cuts to Medicaid. But I'll say to those, you can't have it both ways. You can't scream about fiscal spending going off the cliff, but then say that, it's okay to spend money as long as it means the illegals won't lose their health care. Other critics claim that it's not fair because top earners are getting the biggest tax break. Well, I'll just remind you here that 70% of taxes are paid by the top 10% of income earners. So it kind of seems only natural, not unfair in any way, but if those are the ones that are paying most of the taxes, it almost seems like a no-brainer that they would get the biggest break. on taxes. The word on the Hill, though, is that it will pass. Of course, any changes made to the bill by the House would have to go back to the Senate, and we would certainly miss that July 4th deadline. I heard Ralph Norman, representative from South Carolina, in an interview this morning, and he said that, he was one of the ones that voted against it before, or that said that he would not be for it when it came back to the House, but has indicated that he is now more accepting in favor of voting for the bill because they met with President Trump, and Trump promised them that he would do everything he could to continue to cut costs through the powers available to him as the head of the executive branch. And they were more accepting of it out of fear that if they change the bill and it goes back to the Senate, it would come back even worse. So it's kind of like, the bottom line is that we have to keep the tax cuts. We have to get the tax cut extended. That's the major thing. And then, we'll continue to work on everything else, I think, is the consensus that everybody is settling into. So if it does indeed pass, I think that tax refunds come next tax season in the spring of 26 that are going to result from the child tax credit, the expanded standard deduction, and other provisions will goose spending. And I would submit to you that it is better for people to get to decide how to spend money rather than the government deciding how to spend it. When you consider statistics that I've heard, like 40% of every dollar that's spent by the government goes to the administration, like getting that money actually spent. It costs 40 cents out of every dollar to spend the money, and who knows what the real numbers are about how much is actually eaten up by fraud, waste, and abuse. It is much better for individuals to get to decide how to spend their money than for them to send it to the government in the form of taxes and then have all of the vultures fighting over it. So this is financial freedom, that we, the people, not the government, get to choose how money is spent. I've been watching the bond market. Long-term treasuries were at 4.2%. They've gone up a little bit after the unemployment numbers came out this morning to 4.3. But, the trend in the bond market says that the bond market doesn't believe that if this bill does indeed pass, that it's going to blow out the debt, like many are projecting. This kind of watered down bill, though, is just what happens in politics when you try to lump all kind of things together. I think it was very ambitious of President Trump to try to get it all done in one big, beautiful bill. But I guess if anybody can get it done, he can do it. Everybody has their own special interest. Everyone in Congress has their own special interest, and they're all trying to get a piece of the big pile of money that is extracted from American taxpayers to benefit their constituents. So governments should never be God. Government should never have this much power, and government should never have this much control over this much money. God ordains all authority, yes, but he never intended for the government to take his place as provider and the giver of all good things. So I see the big picture that Trump sees, and I embrace the idea of smaller government, far less taxes, and returning power back to the people, to the family as God intended it. Shifting gears a little bit, Vietnam has struck a trade deal before the end of the tariff pause. President Trump on Wednesday announced that the United States had brokered a trade deal with Vietnam. Under the deal, Vietnam will pay a 20% tariff on all exports to the United States that actually come from Vietnam. In addition, they will also pay a 40% tariff on goods it ships from other countries like China, a process known as transshipping, where China tries to avoid the higher tariffs by shipping to another country and then having that country shipped to the United States. In return for this, the United States gets full access to Vietnam's markets, which is somewhat of a historical first. The deal comes less than a week before the 90-day pause on Trump's reciprocal tariffs are set to expire, after which Vietnam would have faced a blanket tariff rate of 46%. So 20% is better than 46. From what I can tell, imports from Vietnam only had up to a 5% tariff rate prior to 2025. So tariffs very possibly might make foreign-made goods more expensive, but that is yet to be seen. on the labor front, and I don't have a lot of time to get to all of this, so we might have to pick up some of it after the break. But on the labor front, earlier this week, we got the private payrolls report from ADP, and it was somewhat of a shocker. Payrolls were expected to grow quite a bit, but ADP actually reported a 33,000 job loss for last month. This marks the first monthly decline in ADP's payrolls since March of 2023. Just 30 minutes ago, we got the non-farm payroll numbers, and if you weren't watching, I guess you'll have to wait till after the break to find out what they are. I'm your host, Shana Burt. Stay tuned. We're going to be back with more financial issues after our break. You can get your call queued up. You'll be the first caller. 610-363-1110.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Through Crossroads Kids Club, lives like Dali's are being changed all over the world.
When I was 8 years old, my parents separated temporarily. It made me feel lost, empty, and without direction. Until one day, I went with my cousins to the Crossroads Club. This led me to know Lord Jesus and accept Him in my heart. He changed my life, and I don't feel lonely anymore.
Reaching kids with the hope of the gospel in schools and across the world. You can change a young life today at reachOurSchools.com.
Through the ministry of Preborn, the Financial Issues family has saved tens of thousands of lives of babies. What an amazing job that God has done through you, the Financial Issues family. Would you join us in saving the lives of babies? What an amazing reunion we will have in glory, meeting all the people that we have saved. Please go to preborn.org, that is preborn.org, or financialissues.org, and click on the Preborn banner.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only, and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it, and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. Today is Rapid Fire Friday on this Thursday. Our phone lines are open. If you've got questions, 610-363-1110 is the number to get you first spot in the call queue. So call now, 610-363-1110. Let me pick back up on finishing up, getting you guys caught up to in the know. So 30 minutes before the show started, about 40 minutes ago, we did get the non-farm payroll numbers. We were expecting 110,000 jobs to be reported and an unemployment rate of 4.2%. The numbers came in better. We got 147,000 jobs, new jobs reported, 73,000, almost half of the new jobs, though, to my disappointment, was because of government jobs. I'm expecting to see government jobs go down and hoping for government jobs to go down, but I guess that's a process and it's going to take some time. I mean, the people who took the severance packages earlier this year are still going to be on payroll until September. So I don't know. I guess we'll give it a little bit more time to work, but that is a little bit of a disappointment there. There was, on the positive side, there was a 2-month revision to the jobs number of up 16,000. We've been used to seeing the jobs numbers get revised down, but they were actually revised up by 16,000 this time. And unemployment came in at 4.1%. The latest SEP from the Federal Reserve, though, still projects unemployment to be at 4.3 by the end of the year. So they are expecting it to get worse. I wonder what they think of this number. Average hourly earnings rose 3.7% year over year. That has continued to moderate. The labor force participation rate was 62.3%, a tick down from where it was last month, but still relatively steady. The weekly unemployment numbers came in this morning, too. It was sort of a data dump right here before the show started, and they came in a little bit better than expected. So Trump has continued to go after Jay Powell hard, pressing him to cut rates, really criticizing him, putting all kind of things out on social media, indicating that he wants Powell to cut rates and cut them quickly and aggressively. Powell has not capitulated. He has sort of dug in his heels at this point. He doesn't really respond confrontationally to the president, but he does it more, I guess, in a passive aggressive kind of way. He's not capitulated. He has not decided to cut rates at this point, and probably won't after this jobs report. He will feel pretty safe continuing to hide behind the data that has been released. So low unemployment, 4.1%, even lower than what the Fed's expecting by the end of the year, and decent inflation. Depending on which inflation metric you follow, the consensus is that all metrics point to the fact that inflation has come down substantially. The CME FedWatch tool, I watched it shoot up. I checked it before the employment data came out this morning, and there was a 76% chance of no rate cut in July. After the news came out, there was a 95% chance of no cut in July. So we've heard two Fed officials, Bowman and Waller, come out and say that they are more in favor of cutting, but it doesn't look like it's going to be July. There's a 72% chance of a cut by September. I think that that is very, very likely to happen. So speaking of the market, since last Friday, this week so far, the Dow is up 1.84%. The S&P is up almost 1%. The NASDAQ is up almost 1% as well. The pre-markets point to a positive open. All three stock indices are indicating that it will open anywhere from 15 basis points to almost 30 basis points higher when the market does open here shortly. So what's coming next week? Well, it's a pretty slow data week next week. We don't get any real economic numbers of any substance next week. We do get the FOMC minutes from their latest meeting will be released, but I doubt that there'll be really any surprises there. We had the release of the press of the statement, the press conference, and we've had a lot of Fed speak since that's happened, so probably won't be any surprises in those Fed meeting minutes. The big news next week is that the tariff pause is set to be expiring, I believe, on July the 9th. So should be a big week for trade deals. Now that you're in the know about the recent and upcoming financial issues, we hope that you'll learn more about how we can help you integrate those issues into your own stewardship. So we hope that you'll become a partner at Financial Issues and allow us to help equip you with the tools that you need to defund darkness by building a biblically responsible portfolio and encouraging you to fund the light through obedient, joyful, and generous giving. So become a partner, or at least sign up for our weekly newsletter that comes out every Friday. It's free. It's the only thing that you'll get from us if you sign up to get it. And if you visit financialissues.org, you'll be given the opportunity. There'll be a pop-up that comes up there for you to put your email address in, your name, and you can stay in contact with us and get a weekly update. So let's shift gears. We do have the July 4th holiday coming up this weekend. We hope that you guys have plans to spend time with your family, to talk to them. It's very important. The Bible always talks about passing on our faith, the reasons for our hope to the next generation. So spending time with family, talking to that younger generation about the importance of independence, of freedom, where freedom comes from, and how important it is to protect that freedom going forward. So our stewardship verse of the day comes from Psalm 118:5. Out of my distress, I called on the Lord. The Lord answered me and set me free. What do you think, Seth?
Well, Shana, I love this. And by the way, happy Independence Day to you and all of our fellow Americans. Also, happy Treason Day to all of our friends across the pond. I hope you enjoy your tea and crumpets at work tomorrow while we enjoy our freedom. Anyway, back to the scripture, Shana, something much more edifying than my jokes. The psalmist here celebrates the only way that he or anyone can be freed, which really is to call upon the Lord and be rescued. As you mentioned, our freedom is one of the bedrocks of our country. It is not actually a right as much as it is a gift. It certainly is a human right to be able to exercise this freedom, but ultimately it's a gift from God. We didn't earn it. We didn't deserve it. It's a gift to be stewarded well. So I hope that we'll do that, especially as we consider celebrating what this means for us and for our country in this next, day.
Yeah. As we enter into this July 4th holiday, we hear phrases like, let freedom ring. We see that everywhere, right? And to that, I would say yes and amen. In the financial world, which I spend a good bit of my time in, we often hear the term financial freedom as a goal that everyone is striving to attain. Well, financial freedom means having enough income, savings, or investments to be able to afford the kind of lifestyle that you want without being dependent on having to have a paycheck or burdened by debt. Financial freedom is all about having control over our money rather than our money controlling us. It is thought and preached by many that if we get control over our budgets, that we live well below our means, if we invest successfully and amass wealth, that we won't have to worry about having enough money to fund our lifestyle in the future. Being financially free would mean that we can do what we want to do. Maybe travel, pursue hobbies, check off all of those things that are on our bucket list. Some might even desire to be financially free in order to pursue higher goals, like being able to give more generously or to serve in ministry once your working days are done. The idea of being free from debt and financial stress sounds very, very appealing. But we must remember that financial freedom is only one aspect of freedom. And financial freedom is circumstantial. Because if our financial circumstances change, if we lose a source of income, if our investments don't perform as we expected, or if we decide to or are forced to take on debt, we can lose our financial freedom. But Psalm 118:5 reminds us that real and total freedom, that is freedom from fear, sin, anxiety, and ultimate bondage, can only be granted by God to the one who calls on the Lord. So it is possible to be financially wealthy and be enslaved to fear, greed, or discontent. Likewise, one could be financially poor and yet be completely free in Christ. So as I said those two things, did certain people come to mind as I described those two different types of free people? The spiritually free person who doesn't have much financial freedom as the world sees it, and that financially free person who is a slave to fear, sin, or greed. Well, can I tell you that there is a rare kind of person who can be both spiritually free and financially free? So we must be clear that when people call what people call financial freedom, the freedom from debt or financial stress, is not the root of our peace or joy. It is the fruit of living in obedience to God's principles. When we are set free by Christ, we are no longer enslaved to this world's systems or standard or ideas of financial freedom. Being free in Christ motivates and empowers us to handle money differently than the world handles it. Wealth becomes a tool, not a master. It is absolutely tantamount to constantly remind ourselves that God is our provider, and even and especially when we are walking in financial freedom. And if we find ourselves in financial freedom, the world so diligently chases, Psalm 118 reminds us to stay humble and remember it is God who answers us, God who provides, and God who sets us free. Well, folks, we've got to take a break. If you're leaving us, we wish you a very happy 4th of July. For everyone else, stick around. We've got more financial issues to come.
In the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever He calls. And when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
And we're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
Gain valuable insights from partners sharing about financial issues.
You work so hard, all of us do, to get this money, and I knew nothing about how to use it appropriately, biblically. And the strategy is so simple. You guys are on the front line of the battle.
My wife and I have been partners with you for several years, and we have benefited greatly from your advice and your ministry.
I do nothing without following FISM's advice on stocks, and especially since it's coming from a spiritual foundation.
You are amazing. Nobody is doing what you are doing for the body of Christ.
I just wanted to call and thank you for the advice that you gave me a little over a year ago. It has panned out very well.
I never dreamed I'd be able to give money like this.
Become a partner today by simply going to financialissues.org/join. Click the green button to become a partner today.
My baby was like this big. He was like this tiny little spectrum of hope and this unnamed beauty, in a sense. It was poetic. And I saw his heart beating on the screen. And I mean, I went from, I don't want this baby, it's just a fetus, it's just cells put together, to talking to my child on the screen and feeling really protective and knowing that there's life growing inside. I mean, that sonogram changed my life. I went from just Candace to mom. I'm a mom.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. We're so glad that you're here with us today. We're going to continue on. We're halfway through the show, but we're ready to answer some questions. So if you've got a question, you can get your call queued up. The number 610-363-1110. You will still be the first caller in the queue, but I think we got some questions from the chat and from the website. So
yeah, let's kick it off, Shana, with Nelson from Louisiana. Nelson is asking, is it too early to average down on home builders?
Probably. Okay. But that doesn't mean anything. You know, we're long-term investors. It doesn't, you know, we're not looking to get into a company that has a lot of momentum and we expect it to keep going up. So we're going to get in it and then get out when it changes. So I'm very optimistic about the future of the home builders as soon as some things play out in our economy. I mean, we've got mortgage rates still high. The 30-year, the last number that I see, the average is about 6.8%. That's rate shock for lots of people who were used to, 3, 4, 5%. It's just hard for people to wrap their brains around getting a 6.8% mortgage. That is better than the almost 8% that we saw back in October of 23. So, we've seen rates trend downward, but we haven't seen them move meaningfully into a range that makes it really attractive for people to start to buy homes. So until that happens, what's happened with the home builders is that they've got money. They not only build homes, but a lot of times they offer financing through their companies, and so they'll either offer a lower rate than what people can get on traditional mortgages if they buy the homes that they built, or they'll offer incentives to buy down interest rates through different institutions that people are using. So, that has really sort of squeezed their margins for the home builders. But, a lot of them are still great companies, show great leadership, and I think are going to be poised to really do well once things start to line out. So it may be a little bit early, but I think one of the characteristics of the Financial Issues partners and family is that we are very patient. So, we don't have to buy a stock and see it go up the next day by 10%. We're more focused on longer term trends. So we don't really have any on our buy list at the moment, but if you already have one, now I wouldn't overly concentrate in that area, but if you have one and the price is down and it represents less than 1% of your portfolio, I think it would probably be okay to do that.
That's a great answer, Shana. I can attest to what you said about the rate shock. I don't mind sharing this on the air. My interest rate on our mortgage right now is between 2.6 and 2.7%, which means awesome. I cannot leave. I literally, even if I wanted to, I could not leave. It's crazy. So yeah,
golden handcuffs.
Yeah, it is the golden handcuffs. Absolutely right. So for better or worse, that's kind of what it is. Next one up, Shana, is Matt. Matt is saying, I was listening to a specific podcast here, and on the podcast, the hosts were talking about the Mexican avocado farms. They appear to be taken over to some extent by cartels. Is it possible for FISM to screen the broad list so that we can limit our investments to markets such as this? He's 45. What do you think, Shana?
Yeah. So I think probably a lot of Mexico's economy is infiltrated by the cartels. Their government, I think, a good bit of everything in Mexico is infiltrated by the cartels. It's not possible from a logistics standpoint to do that. I mean, if you want to do some research on your own and try to avoid some of that, I mean, we don't have any Mexican avocado farms on our buy list. But, if you want to try to do some research on your own, that would probably be the only way. I mean, it's hard enough. I mean, you can ask our folks here, especially Sam, who does the research on the BRI status of different companies. There's a lot of information to go through, and so adding one more component like that is not really something that's practical for us.
Good stuff, Shana. James is up next here. James is 64. A couple questions. He and his wife both recently fully retired. His first question is, which buckets should we tap first as we start to need money in retirement? We got about 20-25% in cash, 65% in an IRA, about 5% in a Roth IRA, and then 5% in a deferred annuity. Any of those that would be good to start with, Shana?
Yeah, I would say it's going to depend a lot on what tax bracket you're in. So if you are in the 12% tax bracket, I certainly would be, the first thing I would look at probably is that if deferred annuity, I'm assuming it's it doesn't say if it's a qualified or a non-qualified annuity, but just because I'm just not a fan of annuities at all, and it represents a small percentage point. It's probably the piece of your portfolio that you pay the highest fees on. So I would suggest that you start looking there, but I don't know exactly what your contract looks like. I don't know what kind of guarantees. I don't know what it's invested in. So that would probably be the first place that I would explore. The next place that I would explore would be the IRA. So that is the bulk of the assets there, 65% of the portfolio. I would look to whether or not you need the income. I would look at trying to take out as much as you can from the IRA until you get to the top of the 12% tax bracket. So if you use a tax professional, you're probably going to need some help figuring out what that number is. Whatever you don't need to supplement your portfolio, I would definitely leave it invested. You don't want any lazy money. You don't want to just take it out and put it in, add it to your cash reserves. You may want to consider converting some of it to your Roth IRA. Because you have a very small percentage there. The Roth IRA is probably the very last thing that I would touch, and certainly never touch any of your emergency savings.
Shana, that's great. That kind of answers his second question, because he was wondering, should he roll over the traditional IRA dollars into the Roth IRA, taking into consideration kind of avoiding that higher tax bracket?
Yep. Yeah. That's it. Yep. I got it a little bit ahead of myself, but yep, I certainly would consider that.
Awesome. Next one up, Shana. I think we got time for at least one more before the ag report here, is Jeff. Jeff is asking, do you see E31 or CD92 on your buy list anytime soon?
No.
Short answer.
That's a rapid fire Friday kind of question. One of them, E31, is on BRI watch. You'll see that indicated there. That means that although the company is clean technically by the standards that we use, there are indications that they could be drifting in the into that area of a BRI violation. Besides that, there's other companies in the energy sector that we like far more than E31. The other one is just, I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with it. Of course, if there was, we would have sent a sell alert out, but we just like the other companies that are on our list better than that.
Awesome. I think we got time for one more, Shana. This is a short one. Lynn is asking, any update on FP42? Lynn is 69.
Nothing material, other than, there's been no clarification as to the issue that they brought forth about needing to review some of the things in their financial statement based on what's happened with one of the companies that they are invested in. But so there's nothing really material other than the preferred stock price has rebounded from where it dropped to. The common stock has not. So to me, this means that the market has confidence that the impact of the revisions that they may be restating due to the problem company that they have will not hinder the parent company in its ability to pay the interest on its debt. And we don't have the common stock on our buy list. We have the preferred stock. So at this point, we feel very confident that they will continue to pay the interest on the preferred stock that is due. All right, we're going to hear from Craig Haugaard. Take a break, and then we'll be back.
This is Craig Haugaard with your financial issues ag update for July 3rd. We saw double-digit gains across the grain world as traders react to the news of a trade deal with Vietnam, and then a midday rumor that China was planning on making grain purchases out of the U.S. Now, time will tell if this is a buy the rumor, sell the fact kind of scenario, or if it has some staying power. We also need to keep in mind that July 9th is the end of the pause on tariffs going into place, so that may come into play next week. Corn harvest is off to a slow start in South America, but the promise of a large crop here in the U.S. is weighing on our corn market. Corn's going to have a hard time extending rallies with a record yield outlook and weather forecasts that are mostly favorable. But yesterday we saw December corn 11.5 cents higher at $4.33.5. Soybeans benefited when the Senate passed the Big Beautiful Bill. The bill is headed to the House, but currently favors U.S. feedstock usage in biofuels over foreign grown supplies. As a result, November beans were 20.75 cents higher, closing at $10.48 per bushel. Wheat was pulled higher by corn and beans. Many winter wheat areas are still hoping for dry weather so that harvest can progress at a faster rate. Minneapolis September wheat was 20.5 cents higher at $6.49. Kansas City rose by 11 cents to close at $5.42 and with Chicago 15 cents higher at $5.64. Cotton soybeans continue to chop sideways. December futures ended the session 60 points higher at $68.63. Livestock futures surged higher. August live cattle were $1.70 higher at $212.45 per hundredweight. August feeder cattle rose by $3 to close at $309.02 per hundred. And we had August lean hog futures 95 cents higher at $107.90 per hundredweight. Class 3 milk futures slumped once again. At the closing bell, August futures were down 19 points, settling at $18.24. This has been Craig Haugaard with your financial issues ag update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
It's up to us to stand up and say, enough is enough. All of this unbiblical stuff that's going on, whether it's abortion or transsexual or LGBTQ, widespread pornography, human trafficking. Bottom line, it's still up to us. If we stop investing in these corporations that are trying to destroy us, sooner or later they're going to wake up.
To learn more about biblically responsible mutual funds and ETFs, go to timothyplan.com.
Preborn is making motherhood possible for thousands of moms across America.
I found out that I was pregnant. My family, they were like, no, you're not having this baby. I met Miss Linda. She offered to get me an ultrasound. That's where I very first heard the heartbeat. It was really a great thing that I was led to the choice to keep on.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
From the time Crossroads began back in 1998, our sole focus was on reaching children in public schools in the United States. And then in 2017, we decided to translate our curriculum into Spanish, primarily so that we could serve Spanish-speaking churches and students in the U.S. And as I was connecting with a pastor in Chicago and telling him about the materials that Crossroads had in Spanish and about what Kids Club was all about, he said, "Hey, I have a friend in Mexico who I think would really benefit from these materials and your approach to working with children." And so I began the conversation with Rolando Gonzalez. March of 2018, I traveled for the first time to Guadalajara and met with Rolando, and right away we just connected on a heart level. And so we sent a team in August of 2018 to train leaders here in Mexico, and the first international kids clubs were born.
Reaching kids with the hope of the gospel in schools and across the world. You can change a young life today at reachOurschools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. Well, we think Hakeem Jeffries is still letting out some hot air.
Still waxing poetic,
He's
Shana.
still waxing poetic, yes. So we don't have
According
any...
to CNN, he is taking long, slow pauses between each word, and Republicans are just chit-chatting behind him.
Not even listening.
And the chatter from the control room was we were all wondering if he was wearing a male diaper or if he had done Who was it? Booker said that he dehydrated himself. And
Cory Booker for his 24-hour recent filibuster. He said he dehydrated himself and basically starved himself so he didn't have to go to the bathroom. So kind of impressive, but kind of embarrassing too.
I'm all for making a statement, but for a filibuster? I mean, really? You're going to put your life in danger for that?
Yeah, it is. So I guess, and the market does close early today. It closes at 1 p.m. Eastern time for the 4th of July holiday. And a little bit of good news for my family. The Waffle House is ending their egg surcharge. So that is, I can attest to you, that is not fake news. They did indeed have a 50-cent per egg surcharge here recently, and I guess they have removed it now. I'll have to check that out when we visit our local Waffle House. Very interesting conversation in the control room on the Waffle House too. So.
Certainly regional Waffle Houses, some tend to be better than others, we found, Shana.
All right. Nice. Well, I guess let's get more serious.
Back to some serious stuff here.
Let's get back to business.
Sounds good. Mike is up next, Shana. Mike's 38. He's wondering, is it worth setting up a donor-advised fund? Now, I only give to 6 organizations on a monthly basis, and it does not exceed the standard deduction for the year. But I anticipate that I will give more to more organizations in coming years. I also like the idea of consolidating my monthly withdrawals and donating appreciated assets to avoid capital gains when I rebalance my growth portfolio. Shana, what insight would you have for Mike there?
Well, I also see from the note there that Mike is 38.
Yeah.
So, my initial thought is that, you might be on the younger side. You might be a little bit too young to consider a donor advised fund. What you have to remember whenever you set up a donor advised fund is that you're making an irrevocable gift. So, I think it's great in the way that, if you want to make provisions for a final tithe, let's just say if you're already thinking down the road, Jason and I just did a long series on estate planning, and that's one of the things as you're doing strategic planning for your estate plan. It's always a good question to ask, is there any money that you is there any giving that you're doing now that you want to continue doing when you go home to be with the Lord? If that's the case, a donor advised fund might be a great way to carve out a little piece. At 38 years old, you're nowhere even close to being able to do a qualified charitable distribution from your IRA, which is another great way to do giving. So, I do like the idea, and we've talked about the idea of using a donor-advised fund to donate appreciated stocks, as you're doing rebalancing so that you can avoid the capital gains. So, I think if you fall into that category where you want to carve out a piece and use it for that purposes as you're rebalancing and things like that, it can be a great idea. Now, if you need the deduction because you're in a higher tax bracket. See, there's a lot of missing pieces of information that I don't have to really give a good answer, but sometimes that works out pretty good because it makes me give different things to think about, and then it may help other people who are in the same or even a different situation. So one way that you can think of doing it, and that is if you have the assets and the cash to do it, then you can sort of front load. He mentions the fact that he doesn't do enough giving to exceed the standard deduction. So maybe if you're looking at a way, if you're in a high tax bracket and you're looking at a way to be able to itemize some things, maybe you can front load a good part of your giving, say for the next 5 or 10 years. So you can put the money into that kind of account. Remember that you can't get it back for your own purposes. It has to be, given. But you could do, that would probably get him over and above the standard deduction, lower his taxes just a little bit now, and then do the giving from that donor advised fund. The other thing that I think about, though, when I think about his age at age 38, it doesn't say if he's married, if he's got a family, or if he's planning to get married or have a family or anything like that. But, in your 30s, not even being in your 40s yet, you probably have a lot of other financial goals that are competing for your cash, and you may have other things that come up that you want to maybe use some of your investments to fund in time. So all of those things, it just depends on which boxes you check. It may lead you right to a donor advised fund, or it may lead you to another conclusion.
Shana, that's really awesome. There's two things about what Mike said here that's encouraging to me. One, he's 38 and he has enough to give to 6 organizations on a monthly basis. That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Obviously, he didn't say how much it was, but just seeing that makes me think, okay, he's setting himself up well, certainly for the future. Then the second thing is he's in that habit of giving in his 30s. Just imagine having more and more success, the giving that he's going to be able to do. I think it's really cool. So,
I think that he will be a case that proves that God's word is true. It's in the scriptures that tells us to whom much is given, much is expected. And when we're faithful with a little, we will be given more. And I think that he will see that come to fruition in his life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good stuff, Mike. Vonda is the next one, Shana. Vonda's 69, and she says, Shana, I retired from federal service back in December of 2020. I took Part B Medicare for 2 years, canceled when several doctors I'd been with for 20 plus years wouldn't see me. I'm covered under my husband's federal Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm sure I recall Dan saying, if you have federal insurance, only take free Medicare. Is this still the stance at FISM? We're completely debt-free. I have no major health issues, thank God, but it could change in a flash, obviously. Thanks so much. Again, 69 years old.
Yeah. Well, I only speak for myself. I don't formulate opinions for the whole organization, but I like the whole idea of taking just original Medicare. It's not really free. You've paid for it, over your working years. So I do like that option if it is possible to you. It sounds like you have good coverage still through your husband, so that probably would be the route that I would go, especially if you don't have to pay anything extra for it, or you have to pay very little for it. But another option, and I say this because you say you have no major health issues too, but one thing to consider would be to go to Samaritan Ministries and check out the way that they do health sharing. So if you just do the original Medicare, then there's a way that you can use health sharing as a supplement to that. And it's doing healthcare, I think, the way that God intended, where we bear each other's burdens, where we share healthcare expenses. And so it's not traditional insurance. So that tends to be a little bit scary for some people, but I can tell you that I have been using health sharing now for over 10 years through Samaritans and another company that I've used before, and it has just been a wonderful experience for me. It has saved my family a lot of money, and we have not come upon a situation that we ended up worse off than if we had traditional insurance. So I know for a lot of people it's scary to get out of that traditional insurance system, even though most people hate it. They pay a lot of money for coverage that is very lacking, but I've been very happy with my experience with health sharing, and Samaritan Ministries is the health sharing organization that Financial Issues uses to cover healthcare benefits for the employees, for the staff here. So great stuff. Well,
that's awesome.
I don't think we have time to get to another question today, but I hope that you guys join Seth we'll be joining Seth. It's usually Friday when I say
it. Right. I know it feels like a Friday.
It feels like a Friday, but it's not. So Seth, you want to end us telling everybody where you're going to be?
Shana, for sure. So we're going to be in Daniel 6 verses 24 through 28 tomorrow, Shana. This is the final section in the narrative section of Daniel. So many people have been waiting patiently for when we get to the prophecy section of Daniel, which I'm excited. be equally as nervous as I am excited for that. But so this is the final section in the narrative of Daniel. We'll see him coming out of the lion's den. We'll see Darius showing justice upon those who put Daniel in the lion's den in the first place. And ultimately, it ends with Daniel prospering during the reign of King Darius. And what a great promise that is for us, Shana, as we also live in a place that is not our home, but trusting that if we are obedient to God, He will look out for us. He will bless us. This isn't the prosperity gospel. This is the biblical idea that God blesses obedience, even when it feels like He's far from us. So I hope that can be of encouragement to everyone. And I hope that people will show up tomorrow and start their 4th of July weekend with us.
It's easy to do. Partners, non-partners, anybody that wants to join can just go to our website, financialissues.org, and you can find the information on how to call in there. Well, folks, we're at the end of the program today. We hope that you learned something. We hope that you were encouraged. And most of all, we hope that you will have a desire in you to recognize that God owns it all and have those flames fanned to want to honor God in the way that you invest and to be a joyful, generous giver. We'll come back next week because, Lord willing, we will be here to help remind you that God owns it all, and we want to help you be a good and faithful steward. Have a wonderful 4th of July celebration and come back next week. We'll see you then. I'm your host, Shana Burt. Have a great weekend.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.